All right, so let's jump into it today. We're going to do a deep dive into the recent performance of CRISPR Therapeutics stock.
Okay.
And it's been kind of a head-scratcher, honestly, because they just got approval for their very first therapy, Casgevy.
Right.
But the stock has dropped 47% since March. So,
Wow.
yeah, so it begs the question, is this a buying opportunity or a sign of trouble?
Yeah.
So that's where you come in to help us decipher all this.
Yeah, gene therapy is such a fascinating space, and, CRISPR Therapeutics is definitely one to watch. So this drop is definitely a puzzle, so let's try to break it down.
Yeah, okay, so Casgevy, it's been approved for both sickle cell disease and transfusion-dependent beta thalassemia in both the U.S. and EU.
Right.
So huge potential, right? But the launch has been slower than expected.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Yeah, the market really wants to see a strong initial uptake to validate the therapy's potential and justify that $2.2 million price tag. So a slow launch could signal some difficulties penetrating the market and potentially impacting revenue projections and just pushing back the timeline to profitability.
Oh, so investors are essentially saying, show me the money.
Right.
But isn't there more to it than just the numbers?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a pretty complex treatment here, right?
Absolutely. We're not talking about, a simple pill modifying a patient's stem cells is a complex and costly procedure. And the conditioning regimen required before infusion can be really intense.
Yeah.
And in fact, a patient in a separate gene therapy trial not using CRISPR Therapeutics candidate, but a similar conditioning regimen with busulfan passed away.
Oh, wow. That's tragic. And I'm sure that's adding to investor anxieties.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But you said earlier that this situation also presents a potential opportunity for CRISPR Therapeutics.
Right.
So
Well, this is where things get interesting. The European Medicines Agency actually just revoked approval for Novartis's sickle cell drug Adakveo, and then Pfizer pulled their sickle cell drug Oxbryta from the market after failing trials.
So the competitive landscape has suddenly shifted in CRISPR Therapeutics' favor.
Wow. So even with a slow start, Casgevy might end up being the leading treatment if it proves safe and effective over the long term.
Right.
And remember, even capturing a small slice of these patient populations could translate to huge revenues with that price tag.
Precisely. And, adding to that positive side is CRISPR Therapeutics' strong financial standing. They have a healthy $1.9 billion in cash reserves, giving them ample runway to scale up Casgevy and advance other promising candidates in their pipeline.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the pipeline, one that caught my eye is CTX112 for blood cancers. And I hear they're presenting new data at the American Society of Hematology meeting in December.
Yes.
What's got you excited about this one?
Well, the early data is really impressive. CTX112 achieved complete remission in 4 out of 9 patients with advanced stage lymphoma.
Wow.
And this group had already undergone multiple rounds of treatment, meaning other therapies had failed them.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
It suggests that CTX112 could be a game changer for those who have kind of exhausted other options.
Absolutely.
But let's be realistic. Investing in CRISPR Therapeutics comes with risks.
Right. No doubt about it. They're still operating at a loss, and there's no guarantee that Casgevy will become a blockbuster drug.
Right.
However, their current enterprise value is only around $2.1 billion.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak fluent finance, break down what that means for potential investors.
Sure. So enterprise value helps us look beyond the company's current market cap and consider factors like cash on hand and debt.
Okay.
So in this case, it suggests that the market is undervaluing CRISPR Therapeutics, considering their potential to disrupt the healthcare industry. Of course, it's still a high-risk, high-reward scenario.
So a potential bargain for those who can stomach the volatility.
Exactly.
But what are the biggest factors that will determine whether this bet on gene editing pays off for CRISPR Therapeutics?
Well, the success of Casgevy is crucial. They need to address the concerns around manufacturing cost and patient access to drive wider adoption. If they can overcome these hurdles, the upside could be substantial.
But what if Casgevy stumbles? Does the rest of the pipeline have enough horsepower to carry the company forward?
That's a great question. And while CTX112 and the other candidates hold promise, the market is likely baking a lot of Casgevy's potential success into the current stock price.
Okay.
So if Casgevy falters, it would likely impact the company's valuation significantly, even with a robust pipeline.
Okay, so a lot hinges on Casgevy's performance.
Yeah.
What should investors be watching for in the coming months to gauge its trajectory?
We'll keep an eye on the number of patients being treated, any updates on manufacturing and reimbursement progress, and of course, the all-important clinical trial data demonstrating long-term safety and efficacy.
So that's a lot to keep track of.
It is.
But that's what we do here on the Deep Dive, right?
Exactly.
Help you navigate the complexities and make sense of it all.
Yeah, and in this case, there's a lot to unpack as we delve deeper into CRISPR Therapeutics pipeline and its potential to reshape the future of medicine. So welcome back. Let's delve a little deeper into CRISPR Therapeutics pipeline and explore some of their most promising candidates beyond Casgevy.
Okay, sounds good. So we briefly touched on CTX112 for blood cancers earlier, but they're also working on a potential treatment for type 1 diabetes.
Right.
Called VCTX210.
Yes, that's right. VCTX210 is being developed in partnership with ViaCyte, a company known for its work in stem cell-derived therapies. And it's designed to address a fundamental challenge in type 1 diabetes, the lack of insulin production.
Okay, so remind me, how does VCTX210 actually work?
Sure. So VCTX210 is essentially a bioengineered device that contains stem cell-derived pancreatic islet cells.
Okay.
And these islet cells are responsible for producing insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar. And the device itself is roughly the size of a credit card, and it's implanted under the skin.
So it's like giving someone a new source of insulin production.
Exactly.
Pretty ingenious.
Yeah.
But I imagine there are challenges, like how do they prevent the body from rejecting these foreign cells?
Right. Well, that's where the ingenuity lies. The islet cells are housed within a semi-permeable membrane that protects them from the immune system while still allowing insulin to be released into the bloodstream.
Oh, wow.
It's like a miniature internal biofactory that just churns out insulin without needing those immunosuppressant drugs.
That sounds like a major breakthrough for people with type 1 diabetes.
It has that potential.
What kind of results are they seeing in the trials?
So in early phase 12 trials, VCTX210 has shown, significant reductions in the need for injected insulin, and some patients were even able to completely eliminate injections. So it's still early days, but these initial results are very promising.
That's incredible. To go from daily insulin injections to potentially no injections at all would be life-changing for so many people.
Absolutely.
What about cystic fibrosis? I know that's another area where CRISPR Therapeutics is doing some pretty cutting-edge research.
Yeah, cystic fibrosis is a genetic disease caused by a mutation in the CFTR gene. And this mutation leads to the buildup of thick mucus in the lungs and other organs, causing serious breathing problems and other complications. And current treatments, they manage the symptoms, but they don't address the underlying genetic defect.
So how is CRISPR Therapeutics approaching this disease?
So they're developing a therapy called CTX310 that utilizes a specific CRISPR technique called base editing. And this approach targets a single base in the DNA sequence to correct the CFTR gene mutation.
Wait, base editing, that sounds even more precise than the standard CRISPR-Cas9 approach.
Yeah, you're right. It is more precise.
Okay, what are the advantages there?
So traditional CRISPR-Cas9 makes a double-stranded break in the DNA, which can lead to unintended insertions or deletions. Base editing, on the other hand, avoids these double-stranded breaks, minimizing the risk of those off-target effects.
That's fascinating. It sounds like base editing could be a game changer, not just for cystic fibrosis, but for a whole range of genetic diseases.
It has the potential to be a major advance in gene editing. And CTX310 is still preclinical, but the early data from lab studies is encouraging. They've shown that they can successfully correct that CFTR mutation in human lung cells.
Wow.
And they're now working on developing a way to deliver this therapy to patients' lungs.
Okay, so far we've talked about therapies for genetic diseases.
Right.
But CRISPR technology isn't limited to just that.
No, not at all.
CRISPR Therapeutics is also looking at how to use CRISPR to fight infectious diseases.
Yes.
Including some big ones like HIV and hepatitis B.
Absolutely. And the approach here is quite different.
Okay.
Instead of correcting genes, they're looking at using CRISPR to directly target and destroy viral DNA or RNA. The goal is to disable the virus's ability to replicate and spread.
It sounds like a molecular seek and destroy mission.
That's a good way to put it.
But how do they ensure that the CRISPR system targets the viral DNA or RNA and not the patient's own genetic material?
That's the key challenge, and where a lot of the research is focused. They need to design guide RNAs that are highly specific to the viral sequences, ensuring that CRISPR machinery doesn't accidentally edit the host's genome.
It sounds incredibly complex, and I imagine there are concerns about safety and unintended consequences, just like with any new technology.
Right. There are always risks, and that's why rigorous preclinical and clinical trials are essential.
Hmm.
Off-target editing where the CRISPR system makes cuts in the wrong place is a major concern.
Right.
But researchers are constantly working to improve the accuracy and safety of CRISPR systems, and there have been significant advancements in that area.
Yeah, it's amazing to see how fast this technology is evolving. So
Yeah.
stepping back and looking at the whole pipeline,
Yeah.
it's clear that CRISPR Therapeutics is aiming for some big wins. But as you mentioned earlier, they're still a pre-revenue company.
Right.
And there are a lot of unknowns.
That's true. They're making big bets on the future of gene editing. And as with any high-risk, high-reward scenario, there's a chance that things won't pan out as hoped.
So for investors considering CRISPR Therapeutics, what are the most important things to keep in mind? We've talked about the potential, but what about the potential downsides?
Well, you have to consider the competitive landscape. Other companies are also developing gene editing therapies. Some with more advanced pipelines, regulatory hurdles could delay or even derail the approval process.
Right.
And, manufacturing these complex therapies at scale is a major challenge that could impact profitability.
So it's not just about the science, it's about navigating the complex world of drug development, manufacturing, and commercialization.
Exactly. And for a company like CRISPR Therapeutics, that's still very much a work in progress. They need to prove that they can translate their scientific breakthroughs into commercially viable therapies that can reach patients and generate revenue.
Well said. All right, we've covered a lot of ground, from the intricacies of base editing to the challenges of fighting infectious diseases with CRISPR-Town. What are your final thoughts on CRISPR Therapeutics' pipeline and its potential to create value for investors?
Well, the pipeline is undeniably exciting with the potential to address major unmet medical needs. But it's crucial to remember that potential doesn't equal guaranteed success.
Right.
Investors need to weigh the potential rewards against the substantial risks and be prepared for a bumpy ride.
Excellent points. In the final part of our deep dive, we'll shift gears and focus on the financial side of things. We'll analyze CRISPR Therapeutics' current valuation, compare it to industry peers, and discuss what investors should be watching for in the coming months and years. All right, welcome back to our deep dive into CRISPR Therapeutics. We've explored the science, the pipeline, the potential risks and rewards. Now, let's talk money.
Okay.
How does Wall Street view CRISPR Therapeutics, and is the current stock price justified?
Well, that's the million-dollar question. As we discussed, CRISPR Therapeutics is currently valued at an enterprise value of roughly $2.1 billion, to put that into perspective. Let's compare them to some other gene editing and gene therapy companies.
Okay, I'm all ears. Give me some context.
Yeah, sure. So Intellia Therapeutics, another major player in CRISPR-based therapies, has a current enterprise value of around $4 billion.
Okay.
Bluebird Bio, focused on gene therapy for severe genetic diseases, sits at around $5 billion. And then Beam Therapeutics, utilizing that base editing technology, is valued at approximately $6 billion.
So compared to its peers, CRISPR Therapeutics seems to be trading at a discount.
Right.
But is that discount warranted? Is the market undervaluing them, or are there fundamental reasons for this discrepancy?
That's where things get interesting. While CRISPR Therapeutics boasts a promising pipeline, they are lagging behind some of their competitors in terms of clinical progress.
Okay.
So Intellia, for example, has already initiated a pivotal phase 3 trial for their transthyretin amyloidosis therapy, putting them closer to potential commercialization.
So the market might be pricing in a higher level of uncertainty for CRISPR Therapeutics given their earlier stage development.
Right.
But doesn't their strong cash position and lack of debt mitigate some of that risk?
Absolutely. Their $1.9 billion in cash reserves provides a significant buffer and gives them ample runway to continue advancing their pipeline without needing to raise additional capital in the near future. So this financial stability is certainly a point in their favor.
But cash can only last so long.
Yeah.
What are the key milestones that investors should be watching for to assess whether CRISPR Therapeutics can translate its potential into tangible financial results?
Well, first and foremost, keep a close eye on the progress of Casgevy.
Right.
Updates on patient enrollment, manufacturing capacity, and reimbursement decisions will be critical indicators of their ability to successfully commercialize this therapy.
Right. Casgevy is the linchpin of their near-term prospects.
Yes.
But what about the longer-term picture? What should investors be looking for beyond Casgevy?
Well, the advancement of their other pipeline candidates is crucial.
Okay.
Positive clinical data for CTX112 in blood cancers and VCTX210 in diabetes would significantly boost investor confidence and potentially drive the stock price higher.
So it's a waiting game, but a potentially lucrative one for those who believe in the company's vision and execution. Any final advice for those considering adding CRISPR Therapeutics to their portfolio?
Well, investing in biotech, especially a pre-revenue company like CRISPR Therapeutics, requires a strong stomach for volatility and a long-term mindset. Don't invest money you can't afford to lose, and be prepared for a roller coaster ride. Do your due diligence, stay informed about their clinical progress and regulatory updates, and be patient. If CRISPR Therapeutics can deliver on its promise, the payoff could be substantial.
Well said, and that concludes our deep dive into CRISPR Therapeutics. We've covered a lot of ground today, from the intricacies of gene editing to the financial considerations for investors.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure dissecting this fascinating company with you. The world of gene editing is rapidly evolving, and CRISPR Therapeutics is undoubtedly a company to watch in the years to come.
I couldn't agree more, and to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery. We hope this deep dive has provided you with valuable insights and sparked your curiosity about the transformative potential of gene editing. As always, we encourage you to continue researching and learning about this exciting field and to make informed investment decisions based on your individual risk tolerance and financial goals. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions.